Lisa Brennan stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber and felt small. The room was enormous. Built to hold representatives from 7 different species. Each species had seats carved from materials brought from their homeworlds. The ceiling stretched so high above that she could barely see it through the dim light. She had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now. 5 years of careful words and cautious promises. 5 years of watching the older species treat humanity like children who had wandered into an adult conversation. The Krell representative rose from his seat. High Prelate Vorn was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with dark red skin covered in bony plates. His 4 eyes glowed with amber light as he looked down at the human section. "The matter is simple," Vorn announced, his voice booming across the chamber. 3 human colonies exist within territory that historically belongs to the Krell hegemony. We have been patient. We have been generous. But patience has limits. Lisa kept her face calm even as her heart raced. She knew this was coming. Intelligence reports had warned her for weeks. "What are you proposing?" asked Elder Matriarch Silera. The Vish counselor was ancient, her pale blue skin almost transparent with age. She had served on the council for over 300 years. "The colonies must accept Krell governance," Vorn said. "They will pay tribute and follow our laws. If they refuse, we will remove them by force. This is not a request. This is a statement of intent." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species supported the Krell position. Others argued for negotiation. None spoke in support of humanity. Lisa waited for the noise to die down. Then she stood. "Earth rejects this ultimatum," she said clearly. Vorn's eyes narrowed. "You reject it? You have been part of this council for barely 70 years. The Krell hegemony has maintained order in that region for 15,000 years. You have no legal standing." "We have Article 7, Lisa replied. The chamber went silent. Every representative turned to look at her. "Article 7? Silera leaned forward. "I do not recall. It was humanity's condition for joining the council." Lisa interrupted. She kept her voice steady. "It was agreed upon and sealed. We invoke it now." Vorn made a sound that might have been laughter. "What does this article say?" "That is between Earth and the Council Prime," Lisa said. "We invoke our rights under it. The Krell fleet will not approach our colonies." Vorn stood to his full height. "Then, let me be clear, human. 300 Krell warships are already moving toward your space. They will arrive in 1 standard week. Your little fleet of patrol ships cannot stop us. The Council will not protect you. Accept our terms, or watch your colonies burn." Lisa looked up at the massive alien without flinching. "Commander Morrison has already been notified. He is prepared." "Prepared?" Vorn actually did laugh this time. Lisa turned and walked toward the exit. Before she left, she looked back at the assembled council. "Humanity declines the ultimatum. We invoke Article 7, and we accept full responsibility for what happens next." The doors closed behind her. Far from the council chambers, at Firebase Titan on the edge of human space, Commander Kyle Morrison read the encrypted message for the 3rd time. "Awaken the Sentinels." 3 words. That was all. Kyle had been in Earth's defense fleet for 20 years. He had commanded ships in border disputes. He had trained crews and planned strategies. But he had never seen these 3 words before. His communications officer looked nervous. "Sir, the Krell fleet has been spotted. Long-range sensors confirm 297 vessels. They're heading straight for New Austin Colony." New Austin was home to 40,000 people, farmers, mostly. Families who had traveled light years to build new lives. The colony had minimal defenses. Kyle's own fleet consisted of 18 patrol ships and 6 light cruisers. Against 300 Krell warships, they would last minutes. "Should we evacuate the colony, sir?" his first officer asked. Kyle looked at the message again. "Awaken the Sentinels." He touched his communication panel and entered a code he had been given years ago. A code he was told to never use unless he received exactly these words. The screen flickered. A woman's face appeared. Captain Amy Torres. Kyle had never met her, but he knew she worked in what people called special projects. Nobody knew what that meant. "Commander Morrison," Amy said. Her expression was unreadable. "You received the activation order?" "I received something," Kyle said. "I don't know what it means." Quote, "It means everything changes," Amy replied. "Keep your fleet at Firebase Titan. Do not engage the Krell. We're handling this." "Captain, I have 24 ships. The Krell have 300. How exactly are you handling anything?" 1. Amy was quiet for a moment. "How long have you served, Commander?" 20 years. "In those 20 years, did you ever wonder why Earth joined the Council so confidently? Why we took our seat among species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years before we even invented the wheel?" Kyle had wondered. Everyone had. Humanity's rapid rise had seemed almost reckless. "We had a reason," Amy continued. "A very good reason. You're about to see it." The transmission ended. Kyle stood in his command center, staring at the blank screen. Around him, his crew worked frantically, preparing for a battle they couldn't win. Outside the viewport, stars glittered in the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Krell fleet was coming. And somewhere else, something was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Admiral Jake Patterson had served Earth's military for 40 years. He thought he knew every secret the fleet kept. He was wrong. The shuttle carried him into deep space, far beyond the orbit of Neptune. Captain Amy Torres sat across from him, silent. She had picked him up from headquarters with orders signed by people Jake didn't know existed. "Where are we going?" Jake asked for the third time. "You'll see," Amy replied. They had been traveling for 6 hours. The navigation computer was encrypted. Jake had no idea where they were. Finally, Amy stood up. "We're here." Jake looked out the viewport. He saw nothing, just empty space and distant stars. "There's nothing here," he said. Amy smiled slightly. She entered a long code into her wrist computer. "Watch." The space in front of them rippled. It was like looking through water. Then, the ripples spread, and something appeared. Jake's breath stopped. Structures materialized out of nothing. Massive, dark shapes that blocked out the stars behind them. They were huge, each one the size of a small moon. But they weren't stations. They were ships. "What?" Jake couldn't form words. "Dreadnoughts," Amy said quietly. 12 of them. Hidden here for over 500 years. The ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. Their hulls were black, but not regular black. They seemed to absorb light. Geometric patterns covered their surfaces, patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "Who built them?" Jake whispered. "We don't know," Amy said. "We found them." She led him to a conference room deeper in the shuttle. A holographic display activated, showing a frozen moon. Europa. Known. In 2314, we were mining ice on Europa, Amy began. We needed water for the Mars colonies. The drill teams went deep, almost 3 miles down. They found something in the ice. The display showed what looked like metal. Dark metal, perfectly preserved. A ship. Buried under Europa's ice for millions of years. We didn't understand what it was at first. Then we found another one, on Titan. And another, in the asteroid belt. 12 in total, hidden throughout our solar system. Jake stared at the images. "That's impossible." We thought so too. But they were real. And here's the strange part. Amy zoomed in on the ship's interior. They were designed for us. For humans. The controls, the seats, the door sizes. Everything fit human proportions perfectly. That doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't. We brought in scientists from every field. The best minds on Earth worked on this for decades. The ships are old, millions of years old, but they're functional. Perblending. Rhine. Perblending. Perblending. The display changed, showing laboratory footage. Scientists in protective suits, examining strange materials. The hull material doesn't match anything we know. Sensors can barely detect it. The power systems use principles we still don't fully understand. But we learned enough. We learned how to turn them on. Amy looked at Jake directly. Admiral, these ships aren't just advanced. They're beyond anything in the galaxy. We ran simulations. One of these dreadnoughts could fight 100 modern warships and win easily. Jake felt dizzy. Because humanity was new to the galactic community. We were weak, primitive compared to species like the Krell. If they knew we had these ships, they would have destroyed us before we could use them, or they would have tried to take them. So we hid them. We hid them, Amy confirmed. We built holographic shields that could fool any scanner. We created fake energy signatures to make this area seem empty. Only a few dozen people in the entire government knew the truth. The shuttle began moving again, approaching one of the massive ships. The ships came with data cores, Amy continued. Most of the information was corrupted, but we recovered fragments. Enough to learn basic operations, and enough to find a warning. What kind of warning? The data mentioned something called the Inheritors. It mentioned old enemies returning. We think whoever built these ships left them for us to find. But we don't know why. They docked with the nearest dreadnought. Jake followed Amy through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The interior was dark, lit only by pale blue lights that activated as they walked. They entered a massive chamber. In the center was a command chair surrounded by strange interfaces. We call this one the Epoch, Amy said. Each ship has a name in the recovered data. Commander Chris Dalton is bonded with this one. Bonded? The ships have neural interfaces. They connect directly to the commander's mind. It takes months of training. Chris has been preparing for 3 years. A young man entered the chamber. He couldn't have been more than 30. Chris Dalton had dark hair and tired eyes. Admiral Patterson, Chris said, nodding respectfully. You can fly this thing? Jake asked. Not fly. We merge with it. The ship becomes an extension of your thoughts. It's hard to explain until you experience it. Chris sat in the command chair. Immediately, the interfaces lit up around him. The entire ship hummed with power. The Krell fleet will reach New Austin in 4 days, Amy said. 3 dreadnoughts are being deployed to meet them. Chris will command the Epoch. Captain Megan Cruz has the Harbinger. Lieutenant Ryan Beck has the Warden. 3 ships against 300, Jake said. Chris stood up from the chair. The ship powered down again. Admiral, these aren't normal ships. You'll understand when you see them in action. Amy led Jake back toward the shuttle. Before they left, Jake looked back at the enormous dreadnought floating silently in space. The galaxy is going to panic when they see these, he said. Yes, Amy agreed. But the Krell forced our hand. We gave them a chance to back down. They chose aggression. She paused. Article 7 of our Council membership allows us to deploy defensive measures without Council approval. We wrote it specifically for this moment. Jake thought about the implications. Humanity had walked into the galactic community with hidden weapons. They had lied by omission for 70 years. Some will call this treachery, he said. Some will, Amy replied. But we call it survival. Humanity learned long ago that you can't trust everyone just because they smile at you. The galaxy is dangerous. These ships are our insurance policy. The shuttle detached from the Epoch. As they flew away, Jake saw all 12 dreadnoughts floating in formation. They looked like sleeping giants. Soon, 3 of them would wake up, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Krell fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Austin system. 297 warships, each one bristling with weapons. High Prelate Vorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Dawn, and smiled. "Scan for human vessels," he ordered. His tactical officer worked quickly. "Sir, I'm detecting 3 contacts. 3 ships in orbit around the colony world." Vorn's smile grew wider. 3? The humans send 3 ships against our fleet? The signatures are strange, sir. I can't identify the class. They're not matching any known human designs. It doesn't matter. Target all 3. I want them destroyed before we address the colony. The Krell fleet moved into attack formation. Vorn opened a communication channel to the human ships. "Human vessels, this is High Prelate Vorn of the Krell hegemony. You are ordered to stand down immediately or be destroyed." There was a pause. Then a young human male appeared on the screen. He sat in a chair surrounded by strange blue lights. "High Prelate Vorn, this is Commander Chris Dalton. You are ordered to turn your fleet around and leave this system immediately." Vorn laughed. The sound echoed across his bridge. "You command nothing, human. You have 3 ships. We have 300. Simple mathematics." Chris Dalton's expression didn't change. "This is your only warning. Turn back now." "Or what?" Vorn gestured to his weapons officer. "Fire." The Krell fleet opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of energy weapons lit up the darkness of space. Missiles streaked toward the 3 human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a planet. The weapons hit the human ships and simply vanished. Vorn stared at his screens in disbelief. "What happened?" "No, sir," his tactical officer said, her voice shaking. "We hit them directly. Their shields absorbed everything. I'm reading 0 damage. That's impossible. Fire again." The fleet fired a second volley. Then a third. The human ships sat motionless in space, their shields glowing faintly as they absorbed attack after attack. Then the human ships moved. They didn't accelerate normally. They simply appeared in new positions, as if they had teleported. One moment they were together. The next, they were scattered throughout the Krell formation. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Vorn shouted. The first human ship fired a single weapon. A beam of white light touched a Krell cruiser. The cruiser didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next, there was nothing. Not debris. Not energy signatures. Nothing. "What was that?" Vorn demanded. "What kind of weapon?" Vorn demanded. The second human ship fired. Its weapon created a sphere of distorted space around 10 Krell vessels. The ships crumpled like paper, crushed by impossible gravity. The third human ship didn't use energy weapons at all. It fired projectiles that split into hundreds of smaller pieces. Each piece found a Krell ship and burned through the hull like acid through cloth. Vorn's fleet began to scatter. Ships tried to run. The human vessels appeared wherever they went, always one step ahead. They moved through space as if the normal laws of physics didn't apply to them. Chris Dalton's voice came over the open channel, broadcast to every ship. "You were warned. You chose this." In 12 minutes, the Krell lost 240 ships. The survivors fled in every direction, their formations broken, their pride shattered. Vorn stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by damaged consoles and frightened crew. He had started this day, commanding the greatest fleet in Krell history. Now, he watched it burn. "Retreat," he whispered. Chris Dalton's face appeared on the screen again. "High Prelate Vorn, hear me clearly. The Krell hegemony is forbidden from approaching human space. Any violation will result in the complete destruction of your military. Tell your leaders. Tell the Council. Humanity will not be threatened." The 3 human ships vanished, moving faster than Krell sensors could track. They simply disappeared. Vorn collapsed into his command chair. In 15,000 years of Krell expansion, they had never been defeated so utterly, so easily. At the Galactic Council, every species watched the battle footage in stunned silence. The recordings had been transmitted across the entire galaxy. Everyone had seen it. Lisa Brennan stood in the center of the chamber. This time, no one was treating her like a child. "Explain this," demanded Counselor Prime Corval, a tall being covered in silver scales. "Explain these ships. Explain this deception." "We found them," Lisa said simply. "Ancient vessels, hidden in our solar system. We studied them. We learned to operate them. And we kept them secret because we knew how the galaxy would react. You lied to this council." Vorn's voice came from a communication link. He had survived the battle but refused to appear in person. "You sat among us, pretending to be weak, while hiding weapons that could destroy us all. We never lied." Lisa replied calmly. "We simply chose not to reveal everything. Just as every species here keeps secrets. The difference is, our secrets kept us alive." Elder Matriarch Silara spoke quietly. "How many of these dreadnoughts do you have?" 12, Lisa answered. "You saw 3. 9 remain in reserve." The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded humanity's immediate expulsion from the council. Others called for military action. A few species requested immediate alliance with Earth. Lisa waited for the noise to die down. When it didn't, she simply spoke louder. "We didn't ask for these ships. We didn't build them. But we found them. And we claimed them. And we've spent centuries learning their secrets. Article 7 of our membership guaranteed our right to maintain independent defense capabilities. We invoked that right. Independent defense?" Vorn's image appeared on a screen, his face twisted with rage. "Those aren't defense ships. Those are weapons of conquest. You could enslave the entire galaxy with such power." "We could," Lisa agreed. "But we won't. Humanity seeks only to protect our people and our sovereignty. The Krell threatened our colonies. We responded. If you leave us alone, we leave you alone." Corval leaned forward. "And if we don't? If this council decides humanity's weapons are too dangerous to allow?" Lisa met his gaze without fear. "Then you'll learn exactly what 3 dreadnoughts can do. We have 9 more. I suggest the council not force us to use them." The silence that followed was absolute. Silara finally spoke. "This changes everything. The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted. Species that have ruled for millennia are suddenly vulnerable. What you've revealed will cause chaos. Perhaps," Lisa said. "Or perhaps it will cause something else. Perhaps it will remind the galaxy that age doesn't equal superiority. That newcomers can surprise you. That underestimating humanity is a mistake." She turned slowly, looking at each counselor in turn. "We didn't want to reveal this, but the Krell forced our hand. Now you all know. Humanity has teeth. We prefer to keep them hidden, but if you bare yours at us, we will bite back." Lisa walked toward the exit. Before she left, she stopped and looked back. Humanity remains committed to the Council and to galactic peace, but on our terms, not yours. The doors closed behind her, leaving the Council in chaos. Dr. Nina Schultz had been studying the Dreadnoughts for 15 years. She knew their corridors better than her own apartment. She had mapped every system, translated thousands of fragments from the corrupted data cores, but she had never seen this file before. It appeared 3 days after the Battle of New Austin. Something about activating the ships in combat had triggered hidden protocols. New data emerged from systems that had seemed completely dead. Nina sat in her laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface, staring at the holographic symbols floating in front of her. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. "Computer, translate Section 4 again," she said. The artificial intelligence worked through the alien language, piece by piece. Translation, uncertain. Possible meaning. When silence falls between stars, when harvesting begins, inheritors must rise. Nina felt cold despite the warm room. She had seen the word harvesting before in the corrupted files. It had always been connected to warnings, to danger. She opened another fragment. This one showed images. Star systems, beautiful and full of life. Then the same systems, dark and empty. Nothing remained. Not planets, not stars. Just void. Computer, date these images based on stellar drift patterns. The AI processed the data. Images show stellar configurations from approximately 60 million years ago. 60 million years. Before humans existed. Before most current galactic species had evolved. Nina's hands shook as she opened her communication device. Admiral Patterson, I need to speak with you immediately. An hour later, Jake Patterson sat across from Nina in her laboratory. Captain Amy Torres stood beside him, along with Commander Chris Dalton. Show them, Nina said to the computer. The holographic display activated, showing the images of dying star systems. The three military officers watched in silence. The ships tried to tell us, Nina explained. But we couldn't understand. The data was too corrupted. Now, after the battle, more systems have activated. More files have opened. And they're showing us history. She changed the display. 60 million years ago, there was another galactic civilization. They called themselves the Architects. They were advanced beyond anything we can imagine. They built wonders across the galaxy. How do you know this? Amy asked. Because they left records, not just in the Dreadnoughts. I found references in databases across the galaxy. Ancient texts that most species dismissed as mythology. The Vish have stories about them. So do the Dralin. Even the Krell have old legends about the builders who came before. Nina pulled up more images. Cities floating in space. Planets transformed into gardens. Technology that looked like art. The Architects were powerful, but something destroyed them. Something came from outside the galaxy and consumed everything they had built. The data calls it the Harvester Fleet. In a single generation, the Architects went extinct. Jake leaned forward. What does this have to do with the Dreadnoughts? The Architects knew they were dying, Nina said. They couldn't stop the Harvesters, but they could prepare for the future. They built weapons and hid them across the galaxy. They chose specific worlds, planets that might one day evolve intelligent life. They buried the Dreadnoughts and waited. Chris spoke quietly. We're the inheritors. They left the ships for us. For us and others, Nina confirmed. The data suggests dozens of worlds were chosen. But Earth is the only one where the hidden ships were actually found. Either the other worlds didn't evolve intelligence, or they never discovered what was buried there. Amy crossed her arms. So we got lucky. We found ancient weapons. Why does this matter now? Nina took a deep breath. Because the Harvesters are coming back. The room went silent. Nina changed the display again. This time, it showed a map of the galaxy. Small red dots appeared at the edge. In the dark space between spiral arms. Lieutenant Danny Park works at our deep space monitoring network, Nina said. He noticed something strange 2 weeks ago. Monitoring stations at the galactic rim have been going silent. Not malfunctioning. Just stopping. 47 stations, so far. She zoomed in on the map. The red dots formed a pattern, spreading inward toward populated space. I compared this pattern to the Architect data. It matches. This is exactly how the Harvesters moved 60 million years ago. They start at the edges and work their way in, consuming everything. Jake stood up and walked closer to the hologram. You're saying something is destroying our monitoring stations? Not just destroying, consuming. When our ships arrive at the dead stations, there's nothing left. The entire structure is gone. And there's something else. Nina pulled up sensor readings. The last transmissions from each station show massive objects approaching. Objects the size of moons, moving through space at impossible speeds. Chris's face had gone pale. The harvesters. We think so. The architect's data is fragmented, but it describes the same thing. Enormous vessels that consume matter and energy. They don't conquer. They harvest. They take everything and move on. Amy paced the room. Has anyone else noticed the missing stations? Yes. The Vish contacted us yesterday. Elder Matriarch Silera wanted to speak with Ambassador Brennan privately. Nina pulled up a recording. Silara's ancient face appeared on the screen. Ambassador Brennan, the recording said, my people have legends, stories older than our written history. They speak of a time before time, when the galaxy was ruled by beings of great power. The legends say these beings vanished in darkness, consumed by something that came from the void. We always thought these were just stories, but our sensors at the rim have gone dark, and I think our legends are about to become real. The recording ended. Jake looked at each person in the room. Does the council know about this? Some suspect, Nina said. But most are too busy fighting over the Dreadnoughts. Half the galaxy wants to ally with us. The other half wants to destroy us before we get too powerful. They're not paying attention to the real threat. Captain Kate Morris's voice came over the communication system. Dr. Schultz. This is the exploration vessel, Pioneer. We've reached the coordinates from the Dreadnought database. You need to see this. Nina activated the live feed. Kate's ship was in orbit around a dead world at the galaxy's edge. But on the surface was a structure. Massive and dark, partially buried in ancient rock. It's an architect facility, Kate said, her voice full of wonder. We found it exactly where the coordinates said it would be. It's old, but some systems are still functioning. Can you access it? Nina asked. We're inside now. There's an archive. Wait. There's a message. It's activating on its own. The screen flickered. Symbols appeared. Alien and beautiful. The computer translated them in real time. To those who find this, the message read, we are the architects. We built wonders. We touched the stars. We believed ourselves eternal. We were wrong. Something came from the darkness between galaxies. Something vast and hungry. We called it the harvest. It consumed our worlds, our stars, our people. We fought. We failed. These words are our legacy. We have hidden weapons across the galaxy. If you find them, you are the inheritors. You are our second chance. Learn from our mistakes. Unite. Fight. Survive. Do not let our extinction be the galaxy's end. The message faded. Another appeared. Warning. Harvest cycle detected. Pattern matches previous incursion. Time to galactic core. Estimated 700 standard years. Time to inhabited worlds. Estimated 50 standard years. Probability of survival without intervention. 0.03%. Kate's voice was shaking. Dr. Schultz. There are more files here. Records of the last harvest. It's horrifying. They consumed everything. Entire civilizations gone in days. Nina closed her eyes. 50 years. That was all the time they had. Get everything you can from that archive, she told Kate. Every file, every record. We need to know what we're facing. After the transmission ended, the four people in the laboratory sat in silence. Finally, Jake spoke. We have to tell the council. The whole galaxy needs to know. 40-0. One continent. Jake, Army. They won't believe us, Amy said. They barely accept that the Dreadnoughts exist. Ancient extinction events? Monsters from dark space? They'll think we're trying to scare them into submission. Then we make them believe, Chris said firmly. We show them the evidence. All of it. Nina nodded. There's something else. The architect message said, we're the inheritors. Plural. That means other species might have found weapons too, or they could find them now if they knew where to look. The architects hid weapons across the galaxy, Jake said slowly. But only humanity found ours. If other species start looking, then maybe we stand a chance, Nina finished. 12 dreadnoughts won't be enough to fight what's coming. But if there are more hidden weapons out there, if other species can find them. Amy looked at the star map, at the red dots spreading like infection from the galactic rim. We need to make a choice. Keep our secrets and face this alone, or share everything and hope the galaxy unites. Jake stood up straight. That decision is above my rank. Ambassador Brennan needs to make this call. Nina saved all the data and prepared to send it to Lisa. As she worked, she looked at the architect message one more time. Do not let our extinction be the galaxy's end. 60 million years ago, a civilization had died. Now, their weapons had awakened, and their warning had finally been heard. The question was whether the current galaxy would survive what the architects could not. Lisa Brennan sat in the emergency meeting room on Earth and listened to the arguing voices. Military leaders, politicians, scientists. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone thought they knew the right answer. We can't tell them, General Marcus Webb insisted. The moment we reveal this information, the galaxy will panic. There will be chaos. There's already chaos. Dr. Nina Schultz shot back. 6 more monitoring stations went dark yesterday. The harvesters are getting closer. We're running out of time. Let them come closer, Webb argued. We have the dreadnoughts. We can handle this ourselves. Admiral Jake Patterson shook his head. 12 ships against a fleet that destroyed an entire galactic civilization? General, we can't win this alone. Then we find more dreadnoughts, Webb said. The architects hid weapons on other worlds. We locate them first. We take them before other species can. Lisa had heard enough. That's not what the architects wanted. They left these weapons for everyone, for whoever would need them when the harvesters returned. The architects are dead, Webb replied coldly. We're alive. We should stay that way. Lisa stood up. This meeting is over. I'm making the decision. Prepare a full data transmission to every species in the galaxy. Everything. The architect history, the harvester threat, the monitoring station disappearances, all of it. Webb's face turned red. Ambassador, I strongly advise. Your advice is noted and rejected, Lisa said firmly. We're not doing this alone. Humanity didn't survive this long by being selfish. We survived by being smart. We place well. Lisa said in this 200 furs, and the smart move is to unite the galaxy before the enemy arrives. 6 hours later, every communication network in known space received the same transmission. Lisa's face appeared on billions of screens across thousands of worlds. People of the galaxy, she began. Humanity has discovered something. Something that affects all of us. 60 million years ago, our galaxy was home to a civilization called the Architects. They were destroyed by something from outside our galaxy. Something called the Harvesters. And our evidence suggests the harvesters are returning. She showed them everything. The architect archives. The sensor readings from the rim. The pattern of disappearing monitoring stations. The message from the dead world. We estimate we have 50 years before the harvesters reach inhabited space, Lisa continued. The dreadnoughts we revealed were left by the architects. Their weapons designed to fight this threat. But they're not enough. The architects built and hid more weapons across the galaxy. We need to find them, and we need to prepare. The transmission ended with a simple statement. Humanity invites all species to join us in this fight. We can face this threat together, or we can die separately. The choice is yours. The galaxy's response was immediate and divided. Some species called it a trick. The Dralin Collective accused humanity of inventing a fake threat to justify their military power. 3 smaller species withdrew from the council entirely, claiming the larger species were all conspirators. But others believed. The Vish committed their entire deep space fleet to investigating the Rim. The Norn clans, warriors who had fought the Krell for centuries, offered their ships to humanity's command. And then the Krell responded. High Prelate Vorn appeared on every public channel. He looked different. His armor was damaged. His eyes showed something Lisa had never seen in a Krell before. Fear. I didn't believe the human warnings, Vorn said. I thought it was deception. So I took my fastest ship to the Rim. I wanted proof that humanity was lying. He paused. I found proof, but not the kind I expected. Vorn showed footage from his ship's sensors. Massive structures moving through space. They were enormous. Each one larger than the biggest space station ever built. And there were hundreds of them. I watched them consume a star. Vorn continued, his voice hollow. They surrounded it and drew all its energy into themselves. In 3 hours, the star was gone. Just darkness remained. Then they moved to the next system. He looked directly at the camera. The humans are telling the truth. Something is coming. Something that makes our wars seem like children fighting. The Krell hegemony pledges all military resources to the defense of the galaxy. I was wrong. About humanity. We were all wrong. The message ended. Lisa stood in the council chamber 3 days later. This time, the room was packed. Every species had sent representatives. Even those who had withdrawn returned. Commander Chris Dalton stood beside her, along with Captains Megan Cruz and Ryan Beck. The 3 Dreadnought commanders wore their neural interface gear, ready to demonstrate their ship's capabilities. Thank you for coming, Lisa said. We have a proposal. We establish a united galactic defense fleet. Every species contributes ships and personnel. The 12 Dreadnoughts will serve as the core command vessels. But we need more than ships. We need the other weapons the architects hid. Dr. Nina Schultz activated a holographic map. Dozens of locations were marked across the galaxy. These are the coordinates we found in the architect archives, Nina explained. Each one might contain hidden weapons or technology. We need exploration teams from every species. We need to search together. 2. Elder Matriarch Silara spoke. And who commands this fleet? Humanity? Because you found the weapons first? Admiral Jake Patterson stepped forward. I will command the initial deployment. But the fleet will have representatives from every species in command positions. This isn't about human dominance. It's about survival. Counselor Prime Corval looked skeptical. You expect us to simply trust you? After you hid those dreadnoughts for decades? No. Lisa said honestly. I expect you to trust the evidence. Send your own ships to the Rim. See the harvesters yourselves. Then decide if you want to stand with us or face them alone. The debate lasted for hours. Some species wanted guarantees. Others wanted more proof. A few still insisted the whole thing was a human conspiracy. Then Lieutenant Danny Park's voice came over the emergency channel. All council members, this is Earth Monitoring Station 7. We have visual confirmation. Multiple harvester vessels have entered the outer rim of the Helios sector. They're moving toward inhabited systems. ETA, to the nearest colony, is 6 days. The chamber went silent. 6 days, Lisa said quietly. That's how long we have to decide. Stand together or fall apart. High Prelate Vorn stood from his seat. Slowly, he walked to the center of the chamber. He looked at Chris Dalton, the young human who had destroyed his fleet. Commander Dalton, Vorn said formally. The Krell hegemony places all its military forces under your command. Do with them what you will. Chris looked surprised. High Prelate, you defeated 300 of my ships with 3 of yours. Vorn interrupted. I am a warrior. I know strength when I see it. The Krell will follow you into battle. One by one, other species stood. The Vish, the Norn, the Dralin, even the skeptical ones. They all pledged their forces. Within hours, the largest fleet in galactic history began to assemble. 12 dreadnoughts at its center, surrounded by thousands of ships from dozens of species. Admiral Jake Patterson took command from the bridge of the Epic, with Chris Dalton as his tactical commander. Lisa watched from Earth as the fleet prepared to depart. She had made the hardest choice of her life, revealing everything to the galaxy. Now, she would see if it had been the right choice. Dr. Nina Schultz approached her. Ambassador, we finished translating the last architect message from the archive. What does it say? Nina smiled slightly. It says, we failed because we stood alone. Each architect world tried to save itself. We never truly united until it was too late. Do not repeat our mistake. Lisa nodded. Let's hope we're smarter than they were. At the galactic rim, the United Defense Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Before them, silhouetted against the stars, the Harvester Fleet waited, hundreds of massive vessels, dark and ancient, moving with terrible purpose. Admiral Jake Patterson sat in the command chair of the Epic, feeling the ship's power flowing through his neural connection. Around him, Chris Dalton, Megan Cruz, Ryan Beck, and 9 other dreadnought commanders prepared their vessels. All ships report ready, the communications officer announced. Jake looked at the tactical display. 1,800 ships from 30 different species. The greatest alliance the galaxy had ever seen. It still might not be enough. Open a channel to all vessels, Jake ordered. His face appeared on screens throughout the fleet. Humans, Krell, Vish, Norn, and dozens of other species watched him. 60 million years ago, the architects faced this enemy and lost, Jake said. They left us their weapons. They left us their warning. They gave us a chance they never had. Today we use that chance. Today we show these harvesters that this galaxy belongs to the living. All ships, this is Sentinel Command. For Earth, for every world in this galaxy, we hold the line. The dreadnoughts powered up to full capacity for the first time in millions of years. Energy signatures blazed across every sensor in the fleet. The ancient weapons of the architects awakened completely. Ready for the war they were built to fight, the Harvester Fleet began to advance, and the United Galactic Defense Fleet moved to meet them. The battle for the galaxy had begun.